In this video, we talk about Star Trek Discovery, Light and Shadows. After this. Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd, and today, first of all, we want to tell you that there are a couple of things that I have read about, and it has since come out on the web. The Hollywood Reporter reports that Star Trek Discovery has been renewed for a third season, and while I was reading around, I found out something about the original series producer, Bryan Fuller, who was formerly one of the producers of Deep Space Nine, has done other Star Trek projects before, and is generally well respected. A lot of what we have read and what we have heard in other YouTube channels, as a matter of fact, is that his vision was thrown away when he stepped down as producer. What it turns out is, at least the version that I've heard, is that while he was working on other projects, he needed to have full attention on Discovery, at least by the people at the network. And so he elected to step down, but without any malice toward anybody else there. And it turns out that Alex Kurtzman has been following his outline that he had for the first, second, and half of the third seasons. So most of the storyline that we have seen here has come as a result of Bryan Fuller's outlines, all the way down to the name of the main character, the fact that Stamets and Culber were there, and their relationship, and the thing about the spore drive, the story arc nature. The only thing that was kind of put away was that it would be an anthology show where they would go to different timelines. It turns out that it was just too expensive to produce in different times all at once. So CBS had asked to go ahead and do one series in this prequel timeline and then do other series in other timelines. For instance, like Picard series, which will happen after the effects of the Dominion War and the destruction of Romulus. So that's going to be the Picard series. So there will be anthology series rather than anthology episodes, if that makes any sense. Anyway, let's draw our attention, though, to this immediate episode. It gives us a lot more insight into the Red Angel. Now, I came in as recently as a couple of days ago with a full idea on who the Red Angel was and where they came from and what they were doing. And it was helped along with several fellow nerds who had some very good theories. And I still think they're good theories, but it seems from the events of this episode, it's probably not the case. Now, we notice during the time when the time anomaly that Pike and Tyler take a shuttlecraft into, that as they are being rescued from this, 3 red signals come through on Ariam's panel. And she sees them, or maybe doesn't, and does not report it neither way. And so it's leading us to believe, and for the people who've analyzed the pictures of the Red Angel from the previous episode, where they had a good shot of it, a good silhouette of the Red Angel, that it probably fits Ariam's figure more than it does any other character on the ship. Now, I had theorized that it had to be somebody that was on the ship, and that would follow at least in that prediction. But my thoughts that it could be Giorgio or it could be Tilly probably are off the mark. And Ariam is there. Now, it still does not explain why it would be her, because of the fact that what connection does she have to the people in the colony that escaped from World War III? What does that have to do with the early life of Spock and Michael? We don't know these things. Also, we don't know a whole lot about Ariam. She appears to be a not an android, but rather a mechanized human. Perhaps after accidents or something like that, she's had replacement parts. I don't know exactly how they've done, and they really haven't explained much of what the essence of Arium is. However, she would be a fit for the silhouette of the Red Angel, and so how this involves her, we'll have to find out later. Now, other big things in here, of course, is finding Spock. We see Spock for the first time in a state that we have not seen him before. He is not only suffering some kind of psychological trauma, but also carving numbers along with his drawing of the Red Angel on the crypt walls where he's found, where Amanda has been hiding him. And I found it kind of interesting that in this particular crypt, it is shielded from telepathic communication. Now, why would you want to do that in a crypt is my first response to that. I mean, I can think of some rather morbid reasons that you wouldn't want that to happen, but most likely it is the nature of Vulcans' suppressed emotions. They have emotions, they just do not like to show them. And so what better place than in a crypt where you would be in the presence of the remains of your deceased relatives, that you might be at a high emotional state and might not want to share that. So that makes some sense along that line, and also makes a convenient place to hide Spock away from Sarek. So we find Spock carving numbers into the wall of this crypt, and they don't make any sense until other things happen. And but still in the crypt scene, there's a wonderful thing there where Sarek shows a small amount of emotion. Once again, he's safe. He's in that telepathically blocked area, so perhaps he felt a little more comfortable to do that. But in the line that I don't want to lose both my children on the same day, his voice cracked a little bit. And that was a very powerful point right there, and a very profound one in order for, I mean, he wins the argument with Amanda on this. Now, the relationship between Sarek and Amanda, you might think is breaking canon, but if you go back to Journey to Babel, that was the whole thing about it, was an argument between Sarek and Amanda, that he should get this heart surgery and he should ask Spock to help him, and Spock won't help him because he's got his duty to do, and Sarek is not going to ask him because he hasn't been talking to him. And that appears to be a certain amount of stubbornness, as Kirk had observed at that time, and other things that were keeping the two of them apart that were not ruled specifically by logic. Sarek insists that Spock go with Burnham and turn him over to Section 31. And it doesn't seem to be a very good idea. And we see another big thing here in which, once again, Philippa Georgiou, even in her mirror universe type, seems to have an affinity for Burnham to the point that she wants to help her. Now, it's going to be something that's going to help Georgiou as well, but in this case, she gives Georgiou some important information, and then, as Michelle Yeoh is such an accomplished martial artist, she gets to show off some of her skills in a great fight scene. It was a wonderful fight scene where she feigns to lose on this, but as Michael is getting away, she wings her with a phaser shot. And when Michael looks kind of surprised, she gives her kind of a I couldn't resist kind of look. I liked that. Meanwhile, back on Discovery, they are still in orbit around Kaminar, and they're trying to figure out what was the deal with the Red Angel there. And they have come upon a time rift that has a very definable center to it. And so they send a probe into it, and they don't get anything back from it of any meaning. And so they decide that Pike and Tyler should take a shuttlecraft into it. Now, it's quite obvious that Pike and Tyler probably aren't the most qualified people to go in there, but it serves the purpose of the plot for them to be caught in a small space. And there is one good line in there when they're talking about how the anomaly is disrupting their travel, that Pike observes they could be there for an eternity, and Tyler observes, by the nature of the time anomaly, that eternity might not be that long. I also liked that exchange there. There was some psychological analysis on the part of Tyler toward Pike. It continued to ramp up problems between the two of them. And so, in fact, even in a time distortion in which Pike seems to see himself phasering Tyler, he finds when the actual moment comes that Tyler is under attack and he's shooting the tendril that's attacking him. They're being attacked by their own probe, and what this probe wanted, going through Starfleet records and things like that. This is what they always do, you know, whenever machines attack, they immediately start running records. So we don't know what it wanted, but for the first time we're getting the idea that maybe the Red Angel is not necessarily someone that wants to help, but somebody that has a bone to pick, and they are shaping history in such a way to benefit some unknown agenda. And my theory, I had a theory before this, but with the revelation that Ariam apparently is being affected by that, and the fact that her silhouette would match the silhouette of the Red Angel, it is quite possible that Ariam has gone into the future and become the Red Angel who's going back and doing all these changes. Some people have said that the person is a bit too thin to be Tilly, a bit too curvaceous to be either Giorgio or Michael. So, and certainly female, so it couldn't be Spock or Pike or anybody else like that. So that changes my theory and some of the theories that have come up through some of the people in our discussions here on the channel. So my current theory is that this is all going to be manipulating time to the point to where perhaps Discovery will never have existed by the time the series is over. And that might be the way that they square everything with canon. That may be the way that they square everything with Spock's foster sister that is never mentioned before. Perhaps she's wiped from history. What do you think? I'd like to know what you think about this. Please let me know what you think in the comments, and we will read them, and we'll be back next week with more videos on the Orville and on Discovery. And until then, don't go far.